What if that old 1962D Lincoln penny sitting in your jar right now looks ordinary, but one tiny detail could completely change what a collector thinks it is worth? Before you spend it, stop. The 1962D Lincoln cent is not a $1 million coin in its normal form, but certain rare conditions, varieties, or dramatic mint errors can turn an ordinary-looking penny into a serious collectible. And the biggest mistake you can make is assuming every 1962D penny is valuable just because it is old. Today, we are taking a close look at the 1962D Lincoln Memorial Cent, including what the D means, how many were made, what collectors actually pay, which details deserve your attention, and why online claims about $1 million pennies can be so misleading. Most importantly, by the end, you will know exactly what to check before you put that little copper coin back into circulation. Let's start with the date. In 1962, the United States Mint produced Lincoln cents with the familiar memorial reverse. The Denver Mint struck the version carrying the small D mint mark beneath the date on the obverse. More than 1.79 billion 1962D cents were produced, so this is not a rare coin simply because it is from 1962. That number is important, because it immediately tells us something. The real treasure is not the date alone. It is the exceptional coin hiding inside a common date. And here is where things get interesting. Imagine two pennies sitting side by side. Both say 1962D. Both contain the same basic design. One has been carried in pockets for decades, rubbed against other coins, exposed to moisture, and handled by thousands of people. The other somehow survived in nearly perfect condition, with brilliant original red color, sharp details, and almost no marks. To an untrained eye, they may look similar. To a serious collector, they can be worlds apart. That is the first secret. Condition matters enormously. Professional grading companies use grades to describe how well a coin survived. A circulated 1962D cent may be worth little more than face value, depending on condition and market demand. But exceptionally preserved examples can bring much more. PCGS records a $12,000 auction result for a 1962D Lincoln cent graded MS67, sold in 2013. That is a huge jump from 1 cent, and it shows why condition rarity can matter even when the original mintage was enormous. But do not stop there, because there is another clue you need to understand. Look at the color. Collectors commonly describe copper cents as brown, red, or red. A bright, original red surface can be much more desirable than a heavily darkened or damaged coin, especially when the coin is also in a high mint state grade. However, shiny does not automatically mean valuable. Cleaning can destroy collectible surfaces, and artificially brightened copper can be worth less than naturally preserved copper. So if you find a beautiful 1962D penny, resist the temptation to polish it. Seriously, put the cloth down. The original surface is part of the coin's history. Now turn your attention to the tiny D beneath the date. That letter identifies Denver, and collectors have documented multiple repunched mint mark varieties from the 1962D issue. These happened because mint marks were punched into working dies separately in that era. A repunched mint mark can show evidence of an earlier punch in a slightly different position. But here is the trap. Not every strange-looking D is a rare variety. A coin can suffer from machine doubling, damage, scratches, or other forms of distortion that may look exciting under a magnifying glass. True collectible varieties need to match known diagnostics. If the shape does not match a documented variety, calling it a rare error can turn a 1 cent coin into a 1 cent misunderstanding. This is why magnification helps. Use a good light and a loupe, then examine the date, liberty, the lettering, and especially the mint mark. Look for clear, consistent evidence rather than random flattened edges. If something looks dramatically doubled, compare it with trusted reference photographs or have a recognized specialist examine it. Now we reach the part that fuels those unbelievable headlines. The $1 million claim. You may see videos, posts, or listings saying a 1962D Lincoln penny is worth $1 million, $5 million, or even more. Those numbers can sound irresistible. But there is an enormous difference between an asking price, a speculative estimate, and a documented auction sale. For the ordinary 1962D cent, there is no credible evidence that it has sold for $1 million. The verified PCGS auction record cited for the regular 1962D red variety is $12,000. That is valuable, but it is not $1 million. And honestly, that makes the real story more interesting. Because you are not searching for a fantasy jackpot. You are searching for an exceptional survivor. Think about what would have to happen for a 1-cent coin to reach extraordinary territory. It would need something genuinely unusual. An extreme and authenticated mint error, an exceptionally rare variety, extraordinary condition, or some combination that makes major collectors compete for it. A coin cannot become $1 million rarity just because someone typed that number into an online listing. Here is another pattern interrupt. Check the weight. A normal 1962D Lincoln cent has a standard weight of about 3.11 grams and a diameter of 19 millimeters. If your coin has a dramatically different weight, do not immediately celebrate, but do investigate. Wrong planchet errors can be fascinating because the coin may have been struck on a blank intended for another denomination. That kind of mistake can create a coin that looks completely different from the normal issue. For example, documented 1962 dated Lincoln cents struck on unusual planchets have attracted substantial collector attention. A wrong planchet or double denomination error can be far more important than a common date and mint combination. But authentication is critical. A damaged, altered, or chemically treated coin is not the same thing as a genuine mint error. So what should you do if you discover something strange? First, do not clean it. Second, do not scratch the surface to test the metal. Third, do not glue it into a homemade holder or bend it to see what happens. Preserve the coin exactly as you found it. Then photograph both sides under good lighting, record its weight with an accurate scale, and compare the details with reputable numismatic references. If the coin appears genuinely unusual, professional authentication may be worth the cost. And now, let's make this personal. Go grab your old pennies. Maybe there is a jar in the kitchen. Maybe there is a coffee can in the garage. Maybe an inherited collection is sitting in a drawer because nobody knew what to do with it. Pull out the 1962D cents and line them up. Do not look only at the date. Look at the surfaces. Look at the color. Look at the sharpness. Look closely at the D. Check the weight if something looks unusual. And most importantly, separate genuine evidence from internet hype. The 1962D Lincoln cent is a perfect example of why coin collecting can be so addictive. More than 1 billion were struck, yet a tiny fraction survived in truly exceptional condition. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary can be almost invisible until you know exactly where to look. So, is your 1962D penny worth $1 million? Most likely, no. But could an unusually preserved example, a recognized variety, or a dramatic authenticated mint error be worth far more than 1 cent? Absolutely. And the documented top result for a regular 1962D Lincoln cent gives us a powerful reality check. $12,000 at auction for an MS-67 example. That is already an incredible return for a coin that originally represented 1 cent. One final warning. Do not confuse age with rarity. Millions of old coins survived because people saved them, and age alone rarely creates a fortune. What collectors chase is scarcity combined with demand and exceptional quality. That is why a coin worth 1 cent in everyday use can become valuable after professional grading. The goal is not to believe every spectacular claim. The goal is to recognize the evidence that makes a spectacular claim believable. So before you dismiss that old penny, give it another look. Because the real secret is not that every 1962D penny is a fortune. The secret is that one small difference can separate a common coin from a collector's prize. If you find a 1962D penny with unusual doubling, an odd mint mark, strange weight, or remarkable original condition, do not rush to sell it. Investigate first. And if you have one sitting in your collection right now, ask yourself one question. What detail have I been overlooking? That question is where discoveries begin. For serious collectors. And if you enjoy uncovering the hidden stories and surprising values behind America's everyday coins, keep checking those old jars, rolls, and collections. You never know what the next penny will reveal. Stop before you spend that 1975D Lincoln penny. The tiny D under the date has convinced people that this coin could be worth $1 million. But here is the part most videos will not tell you. The ordinary 1975D penny is not $1 million coin. The real mystery is what might be hiding on a very small number of examples, and knowing the difference could save you from throwing away a valuable error. If you have a 1975 penny with a D mint mark, stay with me because we are going to examine the details that matter, the mistakes collectors make, the unusual errors that can create real premiums, and the biggest question of all, what could your coin actually be worth? Start with the basics. The 1975 D Lincoln cent was struck at the Denver Mint. Lincoln appears on the front, the memorial appears on the back, and that small D tells you where the coin was made. Millions upon millions were produced, so the date by itself does not make this penny rare. And that is our first pattern interrupt. A coin can be old without being rare. In fact, most worn 1975 D cents are worth around 1 cent in everyday commerce. Even attractive uncirculated pieces generally do not come close to $1 million. Professional auction records show that exceptional, high-grade examples can bring substantially more than face value, but the documented auction record for a 1975 D cent is thousands, not millions. One PCGS recorded MS67 Plus example sold for $4,112.50 in 2014. So why do people talk about $1,001,975 D penny? Because the internet loves the phrase $1 million coin, and because genuine mint errors can create astonishing prices. But the crucial word is error. A normal coin does not suddenly become worth a fortune because someone posts a dramatic price online. Now turn your attention to the mint mark. That D is important, but simply having a D does not make the coin rare. Some 1975 D cents can show varieties or errors, including repunched mint mark varieties and unusual striking problems. A repunched mint mark can occur when a mint mark is impressed more than once in slightly different positions, creating a visible secondary impression. Here is where your flashlight or phone camera becomes useful. Look closely at the D. Do you see a clean, separate shape next to part of the letter? Or does the edge simply look smeared, flattened, or damaged? Those are not the same thing. Collectors learn this distinction the hard way. Machine doubling can make a letter look doubled, but it usually creates a flat, shelf-like appearance. A true die variety has a different formation and must be examined carefully. Scratches, hits, polishing, and wear can also create shapes that look exciting under magnification but have little or no collectible premium. And there is another trap. Do not judge a coin by a listing asking for a huge price. Anyone can post a penny for $1 million. That does not mean anyone has paid $1 million for it. What matters is a verified sale. That difference is enormous. A genuine auction result tells you what a buyer actually paid. An online asking price tells you what a seller hopes to receive. Those numbers can be worlds apart. Now imagine finding a 1975 D cent that looks strange. Maybe it is copper-colored but appears smaller. Maybe the edge looks wrong. Maybe the design seems dramatically off-center. Maybe the coin has an unusual strike that makes part of the design missing. Do not clean it. Do not polish it. And definitely do not scrape the surface trying to reveal a hidden error. Cleaning can destroy original surfaces and reduce collector interest. If you believe you have a significant mint error, preserve the coin exactly as you found it and consider having it examined by a reputable coin dealer or professional grading service. Here is where the story gets interesting. Some 1975 Lincoln cents really did escape the mint with unusual errors. Public auction records include examples struck on the wrong planchet, off-center strikes, major die breaks, and other dramatic mistakes. One 1975 cent struck on a dime planchet has appeared in auction records for hundreds of dollars, while other dramatic errors have brought different premiums depending on their size, rarity, condition, and authenticity. Notice what we are not saying. We are not saying every strange-looking penny is worth hundreds. We are not saying every 1975 D with doubling is worth thousands. And we are definitely not saying a normal 1975 D cent is secretly worth $1 million. The value comes from the specific feature. Think of it like a fingerprint. The date gets you into the investigation. The D narrows the search. The condition tells you how well the coin survived. But the error or variety may be the detail that changes everything. Now check the condition. If your penny has been circulating for 50 years, it may have scratches, discoloration, contact marks, and worn details. A brilliant, nearly flawless coin that spent decades protected from circulation can be far more interesting to collectors. This is especially important for modern Lincoln cents. High-grade coins can become condition rarities because thousands may exist, but only a tiny number survive at the very highest certified grades. And here comes another surprise. The same date can have completely different values depending on condition. A heavily worn 1975D may be ordinary. A pristine certified example can be worth far more. A dramatic, authenticated mint error can be worth even more. There is no single price that applies to every coin carrying the same date and mint mark. So what should you check right now? First, confirm the date says 1975. Second, confirm the D is actually a mint mark and not damage. Third, inspect the date, Liberty, and I in God we trust for unusual doubling. Fourth, examine the reverse, especially the lettering and memorial details, for genuine striking abnormalities. Fifth, look at the edge. An unusual edge can sometimes provide an important clue about how a coin was made. And sixth, compare the weight and appearance with a normal cent if you suspect a wrong planchet error. Do not rely on color alone. A coin that looks silver is not automatically a rare off-metal error. Now for the million-dollar question. Is your 1975D Lincoln penny worth $1 million? Based on documented auction evidence, no ordinary 1975D cent has a verified $1 million sale. The known market is dramatically lower. A top certified example has reached a few $1,000s, and genuine errors can bring hundreds or, depending on the specific mistake and rarity, potentially more. That may sound disappointing, but it actually makes the hunt more exciting. Because now you know what to look for. You are not searching for a fantasy price tag. You are searching for a real, identifiable minting mistake that collectors can verify. And there is one more reason this matters. The most valuable coin in your collection may not look impressive at first glance. It could be a small cent sitting inside an old jar, a childhood collection, a forgotten drawer, or a roll of coins that has been untouched for years. But rarity is not created by wishful thinking. It is created by scarcity, condition, demand, and evidence. One final warning can save you from a costly mistake. Never assume that a coin is valuable simply because a website, video, or marketplace headline uses words like rare, error, or $1 million. Ask what exact variety is being claimed, whether specialists recognize it, and whether comparable coins have sold. That habit protects you from inflated claims and helps you focus on evidence. In coin collecting, excitement starts the hunt, but verification determines the value. So before you spend that 1975D penny, take 30 seconds and inspect it under good light. Rotate it slowly. Check the mint mark. Check the date. Check the lettering. Look for something that is actually part of the coin rather than damage caused after it left the mint. And if you find something unusual, do not rush to sell it to the first person who offers you $5. Get a second opinion. If the feature appears significant, professional authentication can be worth far more than guessing. Now I want to know what is sitting in your collection. Do you have a 1975D Lincoln cent? Does yours show doubling, an unusual mint mark, an off-center strike, or some other strange feature? Tell me what you see in the comments, because one small detail can completely change the investigation. And remember this, the 1975D penny is not a guaranteed $1 million treasure. But that does not mean every example is worthless. The real opportunity is in learning how to separate an ordinary coin from an authenticated rarity. That is the skill that turns pocket change into a treasure hunt. So check your jars. Check your old coin folders. Check the pennies you almost ignored. Because sometimes the most interesting coin is the one you were about to spend. Imagine finding a 1985D Lincoln penny in your pocket and discovering that one tiny detail could make it worth far more than 1 cent. Sounds impossible, right? Before you toss that old penny into a jar, look closely because the date, the demint mark, the condition, and especially unusual errors can completely change what collectors are willing to pay. The 1985D Lincoln cent was struck at the Denver Mint, and millions were produced. So let's get one thing clear immediately. An ordinary 1985D penny is not automatically a $1 million coin. But that does not mean every 1985D penny is worthless. The real mystery is whether the coin in your hand is ordinary, unusually preserved, or something much harder to find. And there is a reason this matters. Most people look at a penny, see the number 1, and move on. Collectors do the opposite. They slow down. They inspect the letters, the date, the mint mark, the surfaces, the edges, and the tiny imperfections that can separate a common coin from a serious collectible. So grab your pennies because we are going to examine the 1985D Lincoln cent from the ground up. including the details that beginners often miss, the mistakes that can create value, and the biggest trap surrounding those sensational million-dollar claims. Start with the basics. The Lincoln cent features Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, with the familiar profile that has appeared on American pennies for generations. On the reverse of the 1985 issue, you will find the Lincoln Memorial, along with United States of America, 1 cent, and E pluribus unum. Now look beneath the date. Do you see a small letter D? That D tells you the coin was struck in Denver. It is not a secret symbol, and by itself it does not make the penny rare. In fact, the 1985 D cent was produced in large numbers. That is exactly why a normal example usually has only modest value, often around face value in circulated condition. But here comes the interesting part. When a coin is common, condition becomes extremely important. Imagine two 1985 D pennies sitting side by side. One has dark surfaces, scratches, dents, and worn lettering. The other still has brilliant original luster, sharp details, and almost no contact marks. They may look like the same penny to a casual observer, but collectors can see a major difference. High-grade Lincoln cents can bring premiums because truly exceptional examples are much harder to find than ordinary pieces. But it can survive decades in remarkable condition, and that is where grading enters the story. A professional grading service examines the coin and assigns a numerical grade. The higher the grade, the more important small flaws become. A tiny mark that you barely notice can prevent a coin from reaching the highest levels. And condition is not just about whether the coin looks shiny. Look for sharp lettering, clear details in Lincoln's hair and ear, strong lines in the memorial, and clean fields with minimal contact marks. A coin that has never circulated can preserve its original luster, but even an uncirculated coin can have marks from contact with other coins. One more warning. Photographs can be misleading. Lighting can make ordinary discoloration look like a dramatic error. Rotate the coin under different angles of light before deciding that you have discovered something unusual. If the feature disappears when the lighting changes, it may be surface damage or reflection rather than a mint error. Here is your first pattern interrupt. Do not clean the penny. This is one of the biggest mistakes new collectors make. If you find an old coin and think it would look better shiny, resist the temptation to polish it. Cleaning can leave scratches, unnatural surfaces, or chemical damage, and collectors often prefer original surfaces. A coin that looks dull but natural can be more desirable than a coin that has been aggressively scrubbed. Now let's move to the part that creates the biggest excitement. Errors. Not every unusual-looking penny is an error. Some are damaged after leaving the mint. A coin can be bent, scratched, stained, or struck by machinery later in its life. Those problems usually do not create the kind of value people imagine. A genuine mint error is different. It happens during the manufacturing process. And this is where careful inspection can pay off. Look at the date. Are the digits shaped normally? Check the D-mint mark. Does it appear consistent with the rest of the design? Examine Lincoln's portrait. Look around the rim. Then flip the coin over and inspect the Lincoln Memorial. One of the most important questions is whether the supposed error is actually a mint-made feature. That distinction can mean everything. Online videos sometimes show a blurry close-up and immediately announce a fortune. But serious collectors need evidence. So if someone tells you your 1985 D penny is worth $1 million, stop before celebrating. Ask a simple question. What makes this specific coin different? Is it a verified error? Is it an extraordinary grade? Is there documented auction history for a comparable example? Has a reputable grading service authenticated it? Without those answers, $1 million claim is just a claim. The best discoveries are the ones you can prove, not the ones you hope are valuable. And yet, there is another reason you should still inspect your coins. Rare varieties and major errors can hide in ordinary collections. A penny that has spent decades in a dresser drawer, coffee can, inherited collection, or old bankroll may never have received professional attention. Now let's talk about value without falling into the $1 million trap. A circulated 1985 D cent is generally a very common coin. Its value is usually close to face value unless there is something unusual about it. In better condition, especially with strong original mint luster, it may attract more interest. In exceptionally high grades, certified examples can command substantially higher prices than pocket change. But higher does not automatically mean million. That distinction is crucial. $1 million valuation would require extraordinary circumstances, such as a historically significant rarity, an exceptional and verified error, or a unique combination of characteristics supported by credible market evidence. A normal 1985 D penny does not suddenly become $1 million coin because someone posts a huge number on social media. And do not mistake damage for doubling. If you see what looks like a second outline around a letter or number, you might think you found a doubled die. But many coins have machine doubling or other visual effects that are not the same thing as a valuable doubled die variety. Now imagine this scene. You are sorting through a jar of pennies late at night. Most are ordinary. You reach the bottom and pull out a 1985 D. Nothing seems special. Then you notice something unusual around the date. You rotate the coin under a bright light. The shape looks different. You check the mint mark. You inspect the reverse. Your heart starts beating faster. But instead of declaring yourself a millionaire, you do the smart thing. You document what you see. Take clear photographs. Do not clean the coin. Compare it with trusted references. If the feature looks genuinely unusual, consider having the coin examined by an experienced numismatist or a reputable grading service. That is how a real discovery begins. Not with hype, with evidence. And here is the biggest lesson from the 1985 D Lincoln cent. Rarity is not created by the date alone. It comes from scarcity, condition, variety, error status, demand, and proven market value. So what could your 1985 D penny actually be worth? If it is an ordinary circulated example, probably very little above 1 cent. If it is a high-grade example, the value can rise. If it contains a legitimate, significant mint error or rare variety, the situation changes completely. And if someone claims $1 million value, that claim must be backed by authentication and comparable sales, not excitement. So right now, check your 1985 pennies. Look for the D mint mark. Examine the condition. Inspect the date, lettering, rim, portrait, and reverse. Compare anything unusual with trustworthy references. And remember, never clean a potentially valuable coin. Now I want to know something. Have you ever found a 1985 D penny that looked different from the others? Maybe the date seemed unusual. Maybe the strike looked strange. Maybe the coin was still incredibly bright after decades. Tell me what you found, and describe the detail that caught your eye. Because somewhere out there, people are still sorting through old jars, inherited collections, and forgotten coin rolls. Most of those pennies will be ordinary, but every collector knows the thrill of finding the one that deserves a second look. And that is why you should never judge a coin in 2 seconds. A tiny D can tell you where it was made. A tiny error can tell you why it matters. And a remarkable grade can turn an everyday penny into a serious collectible. Just remember the rule. A 1985 D Lincoln cent is not automatically worth $1 million. Extraordinary values require extraordinary proof. So before you spend, trade, clean, or throw away that old penny, take one more look. You might not be holding a fortune, but you could be holding something worth investigating. And sometimes, the difference between 1 cent and a valuable collectible begins with nothing more than noticing what everyone else ignored. If you enjoy discovering the hidden stories and potential value inside ordinary American coins, keep checking those jars, drawers, and old collections. Subscribe for more coin mysteries, rare varieties, famous errors, and the details that can make a seemingly ordinary penny worth a second look. Imagine finding a penny in your change that looks completely ordinary, except one tiny detail could turn it into a coin worth thousands of dollars. And if you have a 1992 D Lincoln cent, you need to check the reverse before you spend another penny. The coin we are talking about today is the 1992 D Lincoln Memorial Cent, struck at the Denver Mint. Billions of regular 1992 cents were produced, so most are worth exactly 1 cent. But a very small number carry a rare transitional variety called the close AM. That is where the story gets interesting. Before we go any further, there is an important correction to the $1 million rumors you may have seen online. There is no verified sale showing a normal 1992 D penny selling for $1 million. The real excitement is still impressive. Documented examples of the rare 1992 D close AM have sold for thousands, with a recorded auction result of $14,100 for a PCGS MS65 example. So the mystery is not whether every 1992 D penny is a fortune. It is whether yours has the one detail collectors are hunting. Now turn your coin over. Do not stare at Lincoln. Look at the word America on the reverse. Specifically, focus on the A and M near the end of the word. On a normal 1992 D business strike cent, there should be a noticeable separation between those letters. On the rare close AM variety, the bases of the A and M appear extremely close, almost touching. That tiny difference is the entire game. And here's the surprising part. The coin can look completely normal everywhere else. The date can be ordinary. The D mint mark can be ordinary. Lincoln's portrait can look ordinary. Even the memorial building can look ordinary. The jackpot clue is hiding in a place most people never think to inspect. Why did this happen? The answer takes us back to the transition between 1992 and 1993. The United States Mint changed the reverse design of the Lincoln cent for 1993. The newer reverse used the close AM arrangement in America, while the standard 1992 circulation reverse used the wide AM arrangement. Somehow, a small number of 1992 and 1992 D cents were struck using dies associated with the upcoming design. Think about that for a moment. A coin dated 1992, but carrying a reverse feature associated with 1993. That is what makes the variety so fascinating. It is essentially a tiny snapshot of the mint changing from one design to another, and somehow a few of those transitional pieces escaped into circulation. PCGS reports that the 1992 D close AM is extraordinarily scarce, with just over 100 examples discovered. That is remarkable when you remember that more than 4.4 billion regular 1992 D cents were struck. Billions made. Only a tiny number recognized as the rare variety. Now here's where many people make a costly mistake. They check the date. They see 1992. They see the D. Then they put the coin back in a jar. Stop. The date and mint mark only tell you where to start. The reverse is where the real test happens. Grab a magnifying glass if you have one, but don't rely on magnification alone. Tilt the coin under a bright light and study the A and M in America. Compare the spacing with a known normal 1992 D cent if possible. If the letters are clearly separated, you probably have a standard coin. If the A and M appear nearly connected, your next step should be much more serious. But there is another clue. Look at the tiny FG initials near the memorial. These are the initials of designer Frank Gasparo. On the close AM variety, their position can help confirm that you are looking at the unusual reverse. This is where the mystery becomes a real identification process instead of a guess. And please don't clean the coin. That advice could save you money. Collectors generally prefer original surfaces. Scrubbing, polishing, rubbing, or using chemicals can damage a coin and destroy the characteristics that help determine its grade. A dirty-looking coin can still be valuable. A shiny, cleaned coin can be worth far less than an original example. Now let's talk about condition. A rare variety does not automatically mean every example is worth the same amount. Grade matters enormously. Color matters too. Lincoln cents are commonly described as brown, red-brown, or red, and a high-grade red example can command a much stronger price. This is where the value can climb. A circulated 1992 D close AM can already be worth hundreds or thousands depending on condition and the marketplace. PCGS auction records include an AU55 example that sold for $3,000, while another AU58 example brought $3,525. A certified MS64 red example sold for $3,840, and an MS64 red example later realized $3,720. But the biggest number is the one that makes collectors stop scrolling. A PCGS MS65 1992D close AM sold for $14,100 at Heritage Auctions in 2014. $14,100 for a 1-cent coin. And that is a verified auction record, not a social media rumor. Here's another twist. The Philadelphia 1992 close AM is even rarer and has reached an even higher documented price. A PCGS MS67 red 1992 close AM sold for $25,850. That comparison matters because it shows why the exact mint mark and exact reverse variety are critical. So where does the $1 million claim come from? Usually, dramatic online titles take a real rarity, attach an enormous hypothetical value, and turn it into a headline. But serious collectors look at documented auction results, certification, condition, and variety attribution. A coin should not be called a $1 million coin simply because someone typed that number into a video title. The truth is more useful. If you find a genuine 1992 D close AM, you may have discovered one of the most interesting modern Lincoln cent varieties ever released into circulation. And you might have discovered it for 1 cent. Now imagine the situation. You are cleaning out an old jar of pennies. Maybe it has been sitting in a drawer for 20 years. You pick up a 1992 D cent. Nothing looks special. You almost toss it back. Then you flip it over. The A and M look almost connected. Your heart jumps. You check again. Same thing. You compare it with another 1992 D. Different. That is the moment you stop treating the coin like spare change. But don't rush to an online auction just yet. Authentication matters. Because once a legitimate rarity becomes famous, imitations, altered coins, damaged coins, and simple misunderstandings become common. A worn coin can make letters look closer than they really are. Dirt can fill spaces. Scratches can create misleading shapes. Photographs can also distort spacing. If your coin appears promising, consider having it examined by a reputable numismatist or submitted to a major grading service for professional attribution. And remember one critical rule. Don't let anyone convince you that the D mint mark alone makes your 1992 penny rare. It doesn't. The ordinary 1992 D cent is common. The rare feature is the close AM reverse. That distinction could be the difference between 1 cent and thousands of dollars. So tonight, check your change jar. Check the old coffee can. Check the rolls of pennies sitting in a drawer. Check the coins your parents or grandparents saved. And don't just look at the dates. Flip them over. Search America. Look at the A. Look at the M. Look for that unusually tight spacing. Then check the FG initials and the overall appearance of the reverse. If you think you've found one, don't clean it, don't polish it, and don't assume a huge value from a random internet claim. Document what you have, compare it carefully, and get professional confirmation. Now I want to know something. Have you ever found a 1992 D Lincoln cent in your change? If you have one nearby, grab it right now and flip it over. Look closely at America. Is the A separated from the M? Or do they look almost like they are touching? Because that tiny gap is exactly where this entire treasure hunt begins. And remember, the biggest lesson here isn't that every old penny is worth a fortune. It's that rare coins can hide in plain sight. Sometimes the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is smaller than the width of a letter. So before you spend that next handful of pennies, take a second look. Your pocket change may not contain a $1 million coin. But if you uncover a genuine 1992 D close AM, you could be holding a verified piece of Lincoln cent history worth thousands. And that is a discovery worth making. The next time a penny seems boring, remember, rarity rarely announces itself. It whispers through a tiny detail, waiting for someone patient enough to notice, investigate, and verify it for themselves. Subscribe for more hidden coin mysteries, rare varieties, and the small details that can turn everyday change into something collectors desperately want.